Yesterday, the Supreme Court took up a case. It's a major First Amendment case involving pornography, something they don't often rule on. So this is very important going forward. And in it, Justice Samuel Alito asked an utterly ridiculous question that makes me very worried about the outcome of this case. So we're gonna get to that in just a second, but first, here's what the case is about. It's Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. So it concerns a Texas law that requires adult users of pornographic websites to verify their ages before they can view content. The law is opposed by free speech advocates, including the ACLU, which is representing a coalition of organizations, including some of these websites, in a lawsuit against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. So this sort of age verification legislation has become quite common. A number of states have passed this over the past few years. And as a result of that, Pornhub has one of the most popular websites, I hear, has now blocked access in 17 states rather than comply with these age verification requirements. And you might wonder, well, why go to the extreme measure of blocking the website? Why not just comply with this? Well, there's a lot of concerns that have been expressed by Pornhub that people are probably not gonna wanna upload images of their government ID to prove their age, which would be required in a lot of these states. This would clearly raise concerns about an online record that could be tracked either by private companies or by the government of people's sexual interests in browsing and all of that. All of this is a massive violation, not just of free speech, as is the concern of this case, but also the general concept of freedom and liberty that Texas historically was pretty big on, but not when it comes to pornography. And so Samuel Alito is asking some questions, and he gets into a question of the sort of content that's available on these websites. And he says, is it like the old Playboy magazine? You have essays there by the modern day equivalent of Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley Jr. So there were laughs at that because no, there's not essays like that. I don't think there's essays at all. And don't you know that, Alito? Like, I know Alito's not a young man or whatever, but like, I feel like Alito's protesting too much here. I think you know that there's no essays on the site, but that's fine. Maybe he doesn't, Brian. But if he doesn't, I don't think he should be allowed to vote on any of this if he is so woefully out of date with his knowledge about what the thing he's ruling on is actually like. But I don't know, what do you think? You think he's being honest there in his ignorance?
Whether you're a Supreme Court justice or not, I believe every individual who uses the internet has accidentally clicked on Pornhub and realized that it is not a thoughtful essay, a place for essays like Substack. It's not like I find that I'm a little incredulous about the whole like. So Pornhub, tell me again, like, is that a discount appliance site? It reminds me of the time Strom Thurmond was during the Anita Hill hearing leaned and asked Anita Hill to speak into the machine. And Liz Winstead has that great line. It's been called a microphone for like 100 years. And I think he died when, he left office at 99 years old or whatever. I mean, we know he's a Catholic. We know that he probably feels tremendous guilt for being online on sexual websites all night long. We know he is, and loving it's not just Pornhub. He's on Grindr or Tinder, or he's swiping this way, swiping that way. Alito can't get enough, and so I think this is just. And particularly his colleague, what's his face, who the irony of this, he was into Long Dong Silver. Remember when he talked about that porn in front of Nita Hill when she was being
You're talking about Clarence Thomas?
Clarence Thomas. If there's any expert on porn, it's him, because he talked a lot about it in the office, apparently. And this was all part of the hearings for Anita Hill. So he really should just lean back in the chair and say, is this a site that yeah, okay, cool. I mean, they know what this is. This is just crap. This is just,
yeah.
But I find it interesting too, like how is Paxton, like people in Texas love their porn just as much as they love barbecue. I mean, I can't imagine them like forcing anyone in Texas to put their driver's license up to visit a porn site.
Strange.
It's the #1 destination for every person on the web. As much as this puritanical society of ours doesn't want to admit it, I think the numbers are pretty, the data is all there. Like it's always left out of every discussion about what's driving the web. It's like dating sites, porn sites, all of that. I don't know. I find all of this to be hilarious. How do you think they're going to rule on this?
Well, I do have thoughts about that. We'll turn to that in just one sec. I do want to say, and I only bring this up because maybe for Alito it'll be important. There are not essays on there. You can go, I guess, to Substack or whatever, as Brian said. But there is.
If there aren't, I'm going to start writing essays for there, because if there are no essays on Pornhub, I'm going to be that guy. I've got a bunch of essays I'm going to write.
Playboy used to publish original fiction. I've got some short stories. But anyway, there's one woman, we can bring up a post here, Zara Dar. She posts like STEM related content on there and apparently makes more money posting that non-sexual stuff on Pornhub than she does on YouTube, which makes me wonder if maybe TDR should be simulcast on Pornhub. But anyway, there's also, by the way, there's stuff, there's like sexual counseling stuff, there's mental health stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's intended to be educational or therapeutic on there. And I know that's important to some of these people, like Neil Gorsuch, who's like trying to get like an estimate of what percentage of the website is obscene. And so I throw this stuff out there to let him know that there's at least a balance, but also I don't care at all. I don't care if literally every bit of it is utterly obscene. We're full grown adults. We should have access to that. If you want to have any claim whatsoever to living in a free country or whatever, you should be free to point your browser to Pornhub. And so, as always, there are these very strange hypocrisies and irony on the right. To be okay with the spread of this or Ted Cruz banning sex toys or whatever, like never talk to me ever again about freedom or small government until you get all the way off my back when it comes to stuff like Pornhub and sex toys or access to condoms and birth control and all that. Get your own house in order. But anyway, in terms of the voting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Sorry. No, I was just going to say that, by the way, there is a data point on Grindr during the Republican National Convention, how their numbers spike from all these sort of download dudes who are on Grindr looking for tail. It's just this is just hypocrisy beyond. I mean, this is so absurd. Yeah,
a tale as old as time. But anyway, yeah. So it's looking like most of the members of the SCOTUS are. They didn't really seem particularly bothered by the law. Sotomayor was sort of pushing for a lot of scrutiny, since this would be effectively a curtailing of the First Amendment. But most of the others, we'll see. I don't know exactly how it's likely to go, but there didn't seem to be a lot of opposition to the law, at least in the testimony that I'd seen.
Do you think, John, that at the lunch break, do you think they all got together and pulled up Pornhub and said, we should take a look at this maybe? I mean, and they all sort of gathered around like innocents while they were eating like cold cut sandwiches, and I just want to know what sites they went on. There's so much variety, so much for them.
There are so many. Here are a few. No, anyway, feel free in the chat, by the way, to share your favorites.
Who chose what? Let's start there. Come on.
Everybody guess which SCOTUS member went to which website. Anyway, I'll be too busy reading Gore Vidal.